The economics of feeding Reassure precision-release choline. Reassure is fed during the transition period, and because it's fed for such a short period of time, it costs just $15 per cow, and yet the benefits will continue to generate income throughout the year. Cows fed Reassure produce 5 pounds more colostrum, which pays for your Reassure investment on the very first day of lactation. Cows fed Reassure also produce 5 pounds more milk per day, every day. That means after the first day, every day is payday. Invest in Reassure during the transition period and recoup your investment on the very first day of lactation. After that, you got it. Payday.
For over 30 years, Progressive Dairy has been bringing dairy producers forward-thinking articles about new facilities, new products, and new methods.
What began as an 8-page flyer in 1987, serving the dairy producers of Idaho, Progressive Dairy magazine has grown into a national and international publication serving the dairy industry across North America.
From the beginning, Progressive Dairy has been provided as a free publication to dairy producers and continues that way today.
Progressive Dairy has always been provided free with the support of advertisers who promote their products and services on the pages of our magazine. Our advertisers trust that we are delivering Progressive Dairy to the right audience. You can help us maintain that trust with our advertisers.
We invite you, our reader, to make sure you request and renew your free subscription to Progressive Dairy once every 2 years to help us keep your information up to date and to ensure that you will continue to receive Progressive Dairy for many years to come.
How will you know if you need to renew your subscription? It's actually really simple. Here, let me show you. For print magazines, on the front cover of each issue, right above your mailing address, you will find your customer ID number. When we need to hear from you, the message, "Time to renew," will be printed after that number. If you don't update your subscription at that time, the text will then change to read, "This could be your last issue, and you could be removed from the mail list if you don't take time to renew." So be sure you don't miss an issue by watching for those messages on your mailing label on the front cover and reach out to us to renew.
Is there anyone else working on your farm or ranch that should have a free subscription? Let us know their information or pass this along, and we'll get them signed up for free as well.
Renew your subscription online at progressivedairy.com or call us at 208-324-7513 to speak with one of our team members. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and our podcast for the latest information about the dairy industry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Producer Exchange. My name is Scott Sorrell, Director of Global Marketing for Balchem Animal Nutrition and Health, and I'm thrilled to bring you the Real Producer Exchange webinar, where we connect with dairy producers worldwide, diving into their unique challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned. Now let's get started by introducing today's moderator, Mr. Walt Cooley, a seasoned editor from Progressive Publishing, who shares a deep interest and understanding of all things dairy. Welcome, Walt. It's always great to see you again. Before we get started, though, Walt, please tell us a little bit more about yourself. And then, if you will, please introduce today's featured guest.
Thanks, Scott. It's good to be with everyone today. If you don't know a little bit about my background, I grew up working on my grandfather's farm in northern Utah, went to school for journalism, and later for MBA. For 16 years, I was the editor-in-chief of Progressive Dairy magazine, and now I'm the vice president of publishing for all of our ag brands at Progressive Publishing, and you can find those at agproud.com. I'm also the founder and editor of the Cow Tech Report. I love learning about all things technology and cows. I call myself a futurist when it comes to technology for cows. And that's really a perfect way to segue into this Real Producer Exchange, where we're going to chat with some producers about what has worked for them, what hasn't worked, and what they've learned along the way. So today I'd like to welcome Rob Diepersloot and his brother to the Real Producer Exchange. Rob and his brother Adrian are 7th generation dairy producers, and they're running successful large operations in 2 states. And they also run a successful consumer colostrum supplement business that markets directly to consumers. Rob and Adrian, I'd like for you to both start off by giving us a quick rundown of your background, and then we can dive into a little bit more of the specifics. So let's start with Rob, and then we'll go to Adrian.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Walt. Happy to be here. Adrian and I are just kind of give a quick intro, and we can dive into our slides. But we are partners in all that we do. We're 7th generation dairy farmers. Let me click into the slides here. And I live here in California and help manage our California operations and our CPG company, WonderCow. And then Adrian, you can kick it off from here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Adrian Diepersloot. I live out in the Front Range in Colorado. And like I said, or like Rob said, we are partners on everything and kind of co-manage everything together. We each have our areas of focus, but I'm more on the agricultural side, overseeing dairy operations, and we have a custom feeding business in Eastern Colorado as well. We've been in Colorado about 9 years and kind of traveled back and forth between Colorado and California. So,
yeah, and just some personal information. So I'm married, and we have 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. Ages 8, 6, 3, and 1. So we're kind of in the thick of that in this stage of our life. And then, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm married. My wife, Jacqueline, she's from dairy background as well, which is pretty nice when you're a dairy farmer and she's used to all the smells and all the things. And so we met in college in San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly, and we have 4 great kids. My oldest is 16, on down to my youngest is 9. And it's an interesting, busy stage of life, but it's a lot of fun. So,
yeah, it is funny and a huge blessing for both of us to have found someone who's like, both of our wives grew up on dairy farms, a lot of generations deep. And so, and out in the middle, of nowhere. So they're kind of used to that lifestyle. Like Adrian said, the smells and everything that goes with that, which has been awesome. But we both went to Cal Poly and graduated with dairy science degrees. And then, this is, as you can see here in the picture on the bottom left, this is our grandpa, the one on the right. His name was Adrian as well. And both of our grandparents immigrated from the Netherlands in the 50s and 60s, and then came here to the U.S. and worked on dairy farms, got sponsored into the dairy industry. One side did. The other side, our mom's side, was in the industry already. But yeah, Adrian, if you want to give a little quick background.
Yeah, so our families all immigrated, like Rob said, from Holland. So we're very familiar with the immigrant journey and sympathize with that. And it was quite a cool generation of people that did that. And they immigrated into California. I think they had a pit stop in Michigan first, on my dad's side, but ended up in Southern California. And my mom's side of the family, they had an operation down there. They immigrated into Poway and had an operation down there where they processed milk and had dairy farms and such. And my dad's side of the family started with a sponsorship up in the Central Valley in California. And from there, that's how my dad was brought into the business, and that's how we're in the business. It's a pretty cool family lifestyle business. I love how the families are involved, and we've seen that generationally, and it's really cool. So.
And just a quick timeline. So our dad got into the industry like early 80s in like Dinuba, Central California. And then we moved up to Madera and built a dairy there in 97, and then expanded second operation in 2004. And then in 2017, we expanded into Colorado, and that's when Adrian moved to Colorado, and we built our dairy farm there called Wolf Creek, and our feedlot operation in Eastern Colorado there 2017. Fast forward, WonderCow was started. That's our colostrum CPG company, and that was started in April of 2023, so not too long ago. But well, we can kind of jump into our dairy operations next if you want, or if you have any other questions about that.
Yeah, tell us about each of these dairies that you're operating, the multi-site, and we'll talk a little bit about how you operate those specifically.
Yeah, I'll jump into that one. So we have 2 dairy farms in California. They're connected on contiguous ground, milking approximately 12,000 cows there. We consider ourselves a high input operation, pushing for efficiency, pushing for milk, prioritizing herd health through great reproduction, and it's similar in Colorado. I would say our model has always been more of a high input model. And so we have the 2 operations there in Madera, and as Rob said, we moved into Colorado in 2017. The journey there really started a lot earlier than that. We were looking to make our way out of California, try to diversify a little bit. We were really looking hard in South Dakota for a while. And on our trips to South Dakota, we would stay the night in Colorado. My sister was living here in Colorado, and all of a sudden, Leprino was expanding here in Greeley, Colorado, and they had a need to fill for some milk in Colorado. And so that opportunity presented itself, and we applied for it, and they granted the production capacity that we would need. And we were off to the races in Colorado, and that's what led us to this dairy operation here in Colorado. So we tend to run higher component herds. We breed for that. Feed efficiency is usually mid 1.7s to 1.8 at times. It's been a lot of fun operating a new dairy in Colorado and simultaneously having a fantastic crew in California to carry on the operations there. As I moved here, and Rob stepped up and managed the California operations, and just the journey has evolved now into the CPG company that we have. With Rob kind of manning the helm there. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, the journey we've been on. So
talk a little bit about both of you, if you would, how you make this work. So you got one of you in California, one of you in Colorado. You know, how often are you meeting? How are you coordinating? How do you communicate to make sure that you're working together and not running 2 separate dairies?
Yeah, I would say the communication is essential. Rob and I are talking every day, sometimes multiple times a day, on all different aspects. We talk a lot about family things, but we're also touching base on all the business entities. We tend to each have our focus. I would say Rob is in California, so he makes the California operation more of his priority, and WonderCow, whereas I overlap on our California operation with our Colorado operation. But it's all out in front of us. I would say to manage a multi-state operation such as our own, and there's a lot of them out there, is the team is number one. So finding the right people, putting them in the right place, the right seat on the bus, so to speak, and really equipping each operation to really hum and setting a really high standard and a high bar for that, and then maintaining the momentum of that. I think setting a course and getting the momentum going. Once you have it going, the momentum is not that hard to maintain as long as you're on it. If you're not minding the details and you don't have the right people in place to maintain that, I think it can be exceptionally difficult. So I would say I would point to our team. We have a great leadership team, both in California and Colorado. I can expand on that a bit. We have kind of a core team that includes Rob and myself and 3 other individuals. One of them is a longtime manager of ours in California. His name is Len, and he has been just a rock in our business. He's been with us since he was 17 years old, and he's actually a partner in Colorado with that operation, but lives in California. He's our general manager there in California. So he's part of our core team of 5 individuals. And then we have a dairy manager in Colorado who oversees the feedlot feeding operation and the dairy there in Colorado, here in Colorado. His name is Larry, and he's just been a really aggressive and really high input manager, and he's been a crucial part of our team as well. And then we have a veterinarian who's part of our core staff as well, who we hired on about 10 years ago out in California, and he oversees a lot of our feed purchasing, feed acquisition, and a lot of our risk management. And that was duties that I've kind of passed on to him, or Rob and I both have kind of passed on to him and trained him up in that. And I think that core group of 5 has been pretty crucial for us. We could talk more on how we do meetings and all that if you'd like, but when we get together, when we talk, we each have areas of focus on our day-to-day. But I think one of the important things in those meetings is that we leave those at the door. And when you step into these meetings, everybody's expected to think like an owner with the entirety of our business in focus. And so you have to leave your biases outside of the room, and it's no holds bar. We speak very blunt and very true to each other, knowing that nothing is personal. It's all about moving the ball forward. And it's very, very productive, very efficient meetings.
Mm-hmm. I'll say, just to add to that too, it's very like relationship based. Communication is so important, and we're all 5 of us are very different people, and we all have different strengths and abilities and knowledge. And I think it's been awesome to have this group where we can kind of fill in each other. Like, one strength is someone else's weakness, and we kind of just come together as a complete team in that way. And I think that's been extremely helpful for us in so many different ways.
Rob, one of the things that, for those that don't know, we had a little conversation beforehand to make sure we cover some key points here. Rob, one of the things we talked about, and Adrian, when we talked first, was you let the managers on the front line manage. You said managers have to do even the personal side of managing other employees day to day. You said the employees have to see them as their boss. Like, yes, maybe you're the leaders of the company, but those managers have to be empowered to be seen as the boss to employees. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, I think every employee, down to the very basic level employee, needs to feel that sense of appreciation from the person that's over them. And so starting there, like Adrian and I, and even our management team, like we cannot reach everybody and appreciate everyone like they deserve and like they need, and to praise every single day, or just to manage in general. So we have to, be able to delegate that responsibility and that leadership to the other managers, and kind of have a flow of a management team with our core 5, and then they go into other managers of every single area, down to like managers of the milkers, right? And every single one of those milkers needs to feel appreciated, and to be told that they're appreciated, and to be given purpose, and to let them know almost, weekly, if not daily, that the work that they're doing has purpose in it. They're not just, milking cows. They're helping feed the world. And I think it's so important to tie that message of purpose in our management. And so having the ability to have those guys look up to their managers and not necessarily expect that from us on a day-to-day business is extremely important.
Yeah, I love when we show up. Like I was out in Eastern Colorado a couple of weeks ago, and my guys, without me even being involved, had planned a big barbecue for the crew. And they're barbecuing and having a great time and feeding everybody. And it's really cool to see those things and have that kind of culture where that genuine appreciation for the people you're working with is present all the time.
So we just to add to that too. So we have on here on the slide, we have kind of our dairy mission statement that we have posted all over the milk barns. And I think that's a good daily reminder, and hopefully the guys are reading it. We have it in English and Spanish. And next to this, we break down each section. So clean milk has a whole breakdown that's on the wall as a poster. And then comfortable cows, assisted by caring people, and a culture of respect and integrity. And we break that into bits that they can understand and they can apply every single day. But just having a poster on the wall is not enough. Like, they need someone who's going to kind of preach this at them every single day and keep them accountable. So that's what our managers do as well.
Take me inside one of your kind of monthly management team meetings, your strategy meetings. What are some of the kinds of topics that you're talking about when you get in there and take the gloves off, like you said, and kind of talk real?
Well, I guess I'll starting with and I'll let you jump in, Adrian, but like the weekly meetings, like there's kind of a lot of different areas of our operation, both in Colorado and California. So we all the managers get around a conference table, and we have the huge, whiteboard, and we're talking about every single area of the business, all the projects that we're working on, all the to-do lists, and in that session, like, I don't know how we can ever operate without that. It's so essential to all that we do, because that's where all the communication happens. Our team does a really good job at doing that. But yeah, I don't know if you want to expand on that and into our other meetings.
I love that meeting because we sit in there, and we have one in California, we have one in Colorado every week. And it's includes the shop manager, the farm manager, the feedlot manager. He's in Eastern Colorado, so we'll do a different one out there. But it'll include our office manager. It includes all the people who are really pulling the levers in our business in one room, and we're just talking through. It looks like just a checklist of tasks, but it creates a conversation, and it creates kind of a knowledge and a respect for what everybody has going on and how busy everybody is, and then there's synergy in that where people can say, hey, I have this going on. I need to do this day. Does anybody have an extra guy or an extra piece of equipment? And then it really creates this team that just works together kind of every week, but it continuously pushes the ball forward. So things just don't fall between the cracks, because it's coming up next week in the meeting again. And so it's pretty cool. I would say that meeting's pretty straightforward, and we try to keep it short and efficient, or maybe it takes a half hour. We don't want this thing to go on, because I have some pretty key managers in there, and they're busy people. And I think one of the key points there is let's hit it. And if it requires further conversation specific to that manager, we'll do that after the meeting. But we're not going to sit there and talk in front of everybody about something that only really pertains to one or two people in that meeting. So, but it creates a lot of those kind of meetings where it's like, hey, let's touch base afterwards on manure management for the fall. What are we going to do? And me and the dairy manager specifically and the farm manager might sit down and attack that. But I don't need everybody else in there, So it's just a great place to start your week, and a great just way to keep the momentum up.
What day do you do those?
So we're doing them. Actually, we're doing them midweek now. What we found is we're doing them on Monday mornings. But Monday, everybody's coming off the weekend, and sometimes there's things that need to be caught up on or done. And so Monday morning was just a little too chaotic. So we've shifted them to Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They're Wednesday kind of through the summer. That was the day that kind of worked better for everybody.
Cool.
But yeah, it's been a really cool thing, especially for Rob and I, because we tend to be really busy and have our focus kind of all over in different places. And this really kind of hones our focus into that operation at that point in time. So
good. We need to get on to our next topic, but in one sentence, how would you, I want to get back to that question. You take the gloves off in those monthly meetings, strategy meetings. How would you describe it? One sentence, what they're like?
If we're talking specific about the monthly meetings, that only includes our core group of managers that are over our whole business. And I would say they're blunt and they're effective.
Rob, any comments from you?
Yeah, no, the first word that came to mind was just raw. Like, hey, we're going to throw everything on the table. No one's going to take it personal. And we're going to work together as a team to, figure out the issues that we're dealing with. And one of the questions Kim had was if we have specific goals each year. And there are goals. I think there's weekly goals that come out of these weekly management meetings of things like we need to work on. And then we also come together as a management team monthly. And that's most likely is going to be a Zoom meeting because we're kind of, all over the place. But we always have things that we're working on there as well, as far as we look at our financial statements and we look at the expenses that we think are a little out of whack. And then together as a team, we're like, hey, these are 3 areas that we're going to take into this next month and really focus on to try to bring those expenses down. Or if we're having any other, production issues or whatnot, we'll address those as well. But any other goals, Adrian, that you can think of?
As far as, like annual meeting you're talking about, Rob?
I guess any of the meetings. It's just one of the questions Kim had.
Yeah, I would say that the annual meeting is a really cool meeting that we have with our banker and accountant involved. And that's where we do kind of a risk assessment, and we do an opportunities kind of session where we can look into what's on the horizon, where are we going, what do we have the opportunity to do, how can we improve internally what we're doing today, but also strategically, where do we need to be? Do we need to be acquiring more farm ground? Do we need to be acquiring more water? Do we need to be expanding the feedlot operation? And talking through those with our core group, with the banker and the accountant. They're vital parts of our team. We love them both, get along with them great. And they love being a part of our team as well. So
awesome. Well, we need to get on to our next topic. I know everyone's really curious to hear about your consumer packaged goods company. We're saving that to the end. So let's move on to the next one here. We can talk about some of your successes. You got some innovations you've used, which has been really cool. And then we always ask everyone to bring at least one failure or something you've learned along the way that might help others to avoid the same pitfalls. So go ahead and talk about your recent successes and your failure.
You want to take that, Rob? Or you want to start with that
one? Yeah, you can take it.
So on the success side, I would say when we built our facility in Colorado, we embraced a lot of different things we hadn't done in California. It was a new facility. We wanted to look what was out there. And so we went with no headlocks, all sort gate, palpation rail management with collars. And that was, I would say, a resounding success. The design of our facility, the efficiency of running cows, through these palpation rails, they're handled really fast. And they're right back in the pen. They never have lockup time on the whole pen. That's been pretty awesome. And we've taken that benefit now to California and incorporated on our parallel parlors there. It's a little bit unique of setup, and that carousel feeds consistently, whereas a parallel, there's 2 double 50s on the one operation that are pretty slugging animals in there. So that took some design, but it works really well. So no lockup time has been great. I think those have been some big successes that we've experienced. Our loafing barns, we use loafing barns in California as far as for calving, and they're very comfortable. We have methane digesters on both facilities in California or on one of the facilities in California and our Colorado operation. The one in California is a little bit unique in that it uses a fuel cell. It's a really cool technology, and that's working well. The one in Colorado is also working well, and that's a different type of digester. It's a mixed plug flow digester in the ground versus covered lagoon in California. And if you need to stop me to ask any questions, go for it. I'm kind of blazing through these here. We've taken advantage of the solar opportunities in California. We have not done that in Colorado yet, just because it hasn't quite made as much sense with cost of power. But those are working very effectively as long as you maintain them, keep them clean. So that has been a really cool thing. We've really reduced our utility costs, our power costs in California significantly through the digesters and the solar. One of the big ones that we've been experiencing lately, as far as success, and a lot of other dairies around the country, are just genomic testing, which is tied to our Angus Cross program, really aggressively crossing Angus into our lower genomic animals. And those have, as everybody knows, really soared in value and really accelerated the genetic progress of our operations. So any questions on those there?
Yeah, Adrian, I was going to ask you about the methane digesters and your power generation. Are you able to use all of the power that you're generating either on the farm or sell it off the farm, or talk about capacity versus what you're able to actually use or sell?
Yeah, in California, we use the power generated. The fuel cell it's a non-combustion method of creating electricity, and it is very complex, and it is very expensive, and it generates straight electricity. Whereas in Colorado, we're generating natural gas. Essentially, we're scrubbing the gas, and it's getting injected into a natural gas pipeline. So our setup of our deals with these companies that have got involved are entirely different, because they're just, the digester structures are different. The products we're making are different. So we do utilize the power on site in California. We do not do that in Colorado, because, like I said, that natural gas is going directly into an injection point on the natural gas pipeline. So we have agreements with the digester company that bring a lot of other benefits to our operation and manure management and things like that. But yeah.
And then on the solar side, are you doing that both in California and Colorado? Did I hear that correctly? Or just one?
We're not doing that in Colorado. We're only doing it in California. Okay. Cost of power was about half in Colorado. We couldn't make it work. And California was really pushing it on the incentives. And so we did go with it in California, and we are using all of that solar. Their net metering program helped a lot to spread that around and utilize that across the different wells and pumps and, dairy operations and such.
I'm curious, talk a little bit about how you made that retrofit of the double parallel parlor work for sort gates. Like what's 2 or 3 key things that make that work when you're slugging cows in there?
I would say the key was to get them all exiting on the same side of the barn so that all of the cows could go. Because when you have a parallel, a lot of times they exit on different sides of the barn. So the bridge we have, they all exit the same side of the barn and go out on the west side so that every cow leaving hits that palpation and sort rail, because you lose efficiency if you have to build 2 of them, one on either side of the barn, right? And so we can have a crew of guys on the one side of the barn that is managing that. And we still have the headlocks, we just don't use them in California. And Colorado, I don't have headlocks at all. It's just an open bunk.
So there's a crossover at the front of the barn where the cows can on one side cross over to the other side. And that allows us to exit everything out of one side. But we are looking at our other facility. It's a little older, and we're not able to do that. So we're currently designing a system for that dairy that's going to be a little bit different.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for that explanation. All right, let's go to your, we'll call it a failure, but a lesson learned. Talk a little bit about what lesson you've learned when it comes to trying to manage something on your farm.
Yeah, I would say we just put technological challenges. I feel like we've had a few of those. The initial manure management system I had employed in our dairy in Colorado didn't work very well. Certain components of it worked well. Other components did not. And so that was a big challenge. We had planned on that, working to clean our manure, and it was a technology we weren't super familiar with. I probably should have. I felt like we researched it, but I also it just didn't pan out. And so ironically, now we have a digester and we're utilizing some of the same technologies, and it's working. So I think the digester was the main component that was missing. It kind of changed the composition of the manure to allow for these technologies to work. Excuse me. And so that was a big one out the gate in Colorado. We've had other technological challenges, but I wouldn't say they were challenges. I would say they were more like our collars. We started with one type of collar and they were working pretty good, but we wanted to take to the next level. So we got rid of all of those. We ran a trial with some cows with multiple collars on just to see differences. And then we switched to a different collar. And there's several other brands we have not tried, but we really like the one that we're working with. There's other little things in our feeding system. We used a big conveyor that was just broken all the time. So we ended up, after the fact, digging a tunnel where our delivery trucks could drive in and the feed box dumped straight into the delivery trucks. At the time when you're building a facility, you're trying to hit all these budget targets and everything is costs more than you anticipate. And so you look back and like, man, why didn't I just do that from the start? But in the moment, you choose to do things based on budget constraints and such. But not that it makes sense.
Thanks for sharing that. Is there any other, if you had to build the exact same dairy, say in Colorado, where it's new ground, novel ground to you, is there anything you would do differently? If you had to build the same dairy again in Colorado that okay, yeah, now we know we need to do this.
Yeah, I'd make sure that you lean heavily on the right advice from the right people. I would fly around the country and talk to the most aggressive dairy farmers who are doing it the best. We thought we were talking to some of those. I would have built a little bit bigger of a parlor. We were going to do an 80 cow carousel and went to a 90. The 100 was the biggest one at that time, and I should have just went straight there. But I went and looked at one dairy, and they're like, "Oh, there's no way you can milk cows that fast." And then, and I should have went and talked to some other dairy farmers, because we figured out very quickly that you can, and if you have the right people in place, and you can milk them very fast. And so getting them around 100 stall carousel, now they're doing 128s or whatever. So yeah, I would say talking to the right people to get the right input on your operations is a big deal.
And just to add to that, if you're looking at a certain technology, make sure you go to dairies that operate similar to yours. I would say one of the issues that we had with that manure management system is we went to all these dairies where it was successful, but they weren't flushing like at that time we were flushing, and then they had digesters and we didn't have a digester. So they were getting this consistent product, which made it work, and ours was inconsistent, and that's why it didn't work, but those things we didn't think about.
So understand the stack of technologies that other dairies are using that maybe they're crucial to each other, right?
Yeah, and just their management style and even the environment, there's a lot of things you got to make sure to line up with your operation if you're comparing apples to apples, Cool.
All right, let's go to your next slide there, Rob.
Yeah, so this is a fun slide.
Yeah.
So and this kind of has to do with the question that Kim had about why we have a digester on one dairy and not the other. I'd say SGMA, and for those who don't know, it's a Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And that is, I guess it was created by California because there was continuous diversions of surface water away from the San Joaquin Valley over time because there was no water law in California. And that just forced more people, with the growth of agriculture too, it just forced more people to pump more water out of the ground, which ultimately created this overdraft, created some subsidence, and created issues, which are legit issues. It's just unfortunate that now we got to deal with them, and California has kind of put it on, the dairy farmers and the farmers in California to deal with these issues. And that's what SGMA is. It started in 2017, I think, is when all these groundwater sustainability agencies were created, and they've given us till 2040 to kind of achieve sustainability on each farm. So with that, there's going to be a lot of, if you don't have access to surface water, there's going to be reduced pumping, fallowing of ground, and a lot of stuff like that that we're going to be facing over the next couple decades. So that's headwind number one for us in California. And with that kind of creates a nutrient management issue, because if you have to fallow ground, then you don't have the crops to uptake the nitrogen and salts. And so, the more ground you fallow as dairy farmers, you have to start to sell cows because you got to stay compliant, and that creates an issue. So that's the regulations we're dealing with in California.
So to answer the question, digester in California, too much water essentially, and it takes away your ability to put nitrogen where you want to put it.
Well, I guess it's we're kind of waiting to see how this water law and SGMA plays out and our future in California before we commit to a digester, because a lot of times you're bringing in other investors to build these really expensive digesters, and you need to give them a return for 10, 20 years. But if we're forced to fallow ground, we kind of got to, and we may have to move that dairy someday. We don't know, so we're just kind of sitting and waiting, I guess, at the moment.
Good. Adrian, talk about some of your headwinds in Colorado.
Yeah, I would say kind of in the last, since I've been here, it's been about 8 or 9 years, and the urban expansion has just been insane, especially kind of where my dairy farm is at. I know long term that could be a good thing, but in the immediate, it's really tough because it's driven up some water costs pretty significantly. If you're like, we came into Colorado looking at milking maybe 4,500 cows, we're milking about 5,500 cows, and so there's extra water needs, and a lot of those surcharges have gotten pretty crazy. So that's really kind of hurt. My water bill like quadruples in the months that I get surcharged, and so it's some unanticipated costs, but we're working around that too. we've purchased some extra water and done things like that. One of the things about a lot of the dairies in the Front Range is they're on urban city taps. They're not on wells. We don't have a lot of well water in the Front Range here. And so when you're on a city tap, I'm competing against guys who are selling this water by the gallon to, for homes and stuff like that. And so it's a challenge, to say the least. I would say another challenge that we're dealing with is just base program limitations. I know a lot of the country deals with that, where our co-op here locally has us kind of capped at where we can produce. So we changed, naturally you have some growth in your operation, and that's been costing a little bit to produce over base milk. So we've incorporated a strategy of using some crossbreds. We're breeding F1, kind of terminal F1 crosses to about 25% of our herd. It's kind of on an experimental basis right now. We want to just see. I have them in first lactation right now. Some coming to second lactation. I want to see the longevity on the animals for myself. I want to see how they perform reproductively and production wise, and just see how that works. I can see if it's successful. That will be maybe 50% F1 crosses. That's the first generation Jersey Holstein cross. Weather in Colorado is always a big challenge. Weather here is, it's pretty violent, swing back and forth, which is good and bad. I mean, if they say if you don't like the weather in Colorado, just wait 15 minutes. We don't get, like, I'll get a blizzard that'll come and hit my feedlot in eastern Colorado, and they're tough to deal with. You got to move a lot of snow around, but 2 days later, the snow melts and it's dry and sunny again. So, we get a lot of sunshine in our state, and so it's just those spurts of weather, especially on the farming side, can be difficult when you're timing planting and you're timing harvest and you're doing all this, and you get a lot of afternoon storms, and weather can be fickle. Now my dairy farm is pretty much all indoors, and so I don't deal with it on the dairy side so much. I'm more the farming side and then out on the feedlot. But the irony of that though is, you get the weather swings, but the weather for the feedlot is actually pretty optimum for herd health, for animal health. So it's, and we'll touch on that on a slide here in a little bit, but manure management's a challenge. I think that's a challenge everywhere. We've embraced almost every kind of manure management. We're using tankers to spread manure. We're using direct injection, spreading manure. We're running some through pivots that we have close to the dairy, and we just had to embrace every kind of method of spreading our manure footprint out. So those are some of the challenges we're dealing with.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's get to what made many people maybe were interested in coming to this session 4. And Rob, let's jump into your WonderCow.
Okay. Yeah, these 2 slides, this is just, sustainability. We kind of touched on that already. This is our feedlot out in eastern Colorado. It's called Brightwater. Okay. And then, so WonderCow, so I guess jumping into the beginning of this. So back in college, I was a dairy science major at Cal Poly, and did a research project. It was my senior project on colostrum and calves, where I took 300 calves from our operations and fed them 3 different types of colostrum: frozen, fresh, pasteurized. And then weighed them, monitored them, morbidity, mortality, weight, and followed them all the way up till milk production. And through that experience, I learned a ton about colostrum, the bioactive molecules, what it does to the calf, the impact that it has. Calves are born without an immune system, fully reliant on colostrum to establish their immune system, fortify their gut, and that first feeding impacts, their whole life, and even longevity and into the production of that animal, when she's milking. And then fast forward a couple of years after that, my wife and I had our first daughter, and she was dealing with a lot of, I think she had 5 ear infections her first year of life. And with every ear infection, the doctor prescribed antibiotics, which helped the infection, but ultimately destroyed her gut and compromised her immune system. And so we were just looking for something to just help her get her immune system and get back on track. And we came, across colostrum. So we gave it a shot, and it worked really well for her. And so we got our whole family on it. We started sharing it with family and friends. And then we decided like, hey, we need to share this with as much people as possible. So we ended up building a brand, and that's how WonderCow was born. So we started WonderCow, and I think we launched on Amazon. It was April of 2023. So we're about 2.5 years almost. Right now we're selling direct to consumer on Amazon, and we'll be launching in Sprouts here in October.
Very good. I think it's important to kind of tie together the consumer packaged goods as well as what you're doing on your dairy operation. And I think, Rob, you said one of the most frequent questions you get is, are you stealing colostrum from calves to feed it to humans? Address that if you would.
Yeah. So, and first of all, our dairy operations, we don't produce enough colostrum on our own operations to supply all of our needs with WonderCow. So we source it from other farms here in the U.S. And cows will produce more colostrum than a calf can consume. So we generally feed a gallon to each one of our calves, and they're Holstein calves. And a healthy Holstein cow will produce, anywhere from 2 to 3 gallons on average. So we make sure on the WonderCow side, we have a calf first promise where we ensure that every farm that we're getting colostrum from is feeding their calf first. And then it's only the extra that they take and that we would use for WonderCow colostrum supplements. And then just to give everyone an idea of what it is. So right now it's a powdered supplement similar to like whey protein. If you look, the powder that we have, it's like, you probably can't see in this camera, but it's a gold powder. And the way, I guess that we're different than most other colostrum brands on the market today, and there's a ton of them, but we use a whole colostrum powder. And most other companies will use skims. So they'll take the fat and the casein out and to make it more soluble, which makes it convenient for the consumer. But there's so much through our research, like there's so much benefit to the fat and the milk fat globular membranes, and for brain development in kids, but also that fat creates this protective layer around the bioactive molecules, that allow them to get through your digestion and into your gut where they can maximize their benefit. So anyways, that's why we chose to use whole colostrum. And that's kind of how we're different than most other colostrum companies on the market today.
Rob, is there anything you're doing to increase the quality and quantity of the colostrum that you're producing on your farm?
I think cow health, herd health is the biggest driver of quality colostrum. So, and as dairy farmers, we want our cows to be as comfortable as possible all the time because our milk production and efficiency depends on that. And every dairy farmer knows that. So I would say anywhere, from the environment that they're in to the nutrition, to the way we harvest it, like every little detail has to be accounted for if you want to maximize the quality and quantity of your colostrum supply on farm.
Another question I was interested to share with the audience, Rob, talk a little bit about the colostrum supplement industry. You described it as the wild, wild west, and just that there's kind of no rules, there's no regulations. Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's wild. First of all, like just navigating Amazon in general is crazy because you're dealing with people, companies, counterfeit product, fake product from people who are in China and across the world that you can't see or find or know, so we literally have an agency that works full time just finding these counterfeit products and taking them down. So that's been a huge learning curve in general. But as the colostrum industry has grown, not only has there been a lot of new colostrum brands, but also all the big giant brands are hopping in the category too. And there's only a limited supply of colostrum in the US. There's more dairies coming online, the more that it's worth and valued. And But now, they're starting to bring in colostrum from India, which is, the quality is not great. And from other countries, and starting to use multiple days of colostrum because it's cheaper. They're trying to get their competitive edge, and they're losing the quality, which is super unfortunate. But for us as a smaller company, we only have so many marketing dollars available, and these guys have unlimited, so they can say what they want, and it's not super regulated. Even like grass fed is not really regulated. And I don't want to get too much into that, but anyone can kind of throw that on their label, and like no one's really checking on them. I'd say organic is super regulated, and that's legit. But there's a lot of these other, these companies that will say whatever it takes to sell. And it's really hard to, we're a company of integrity and transparency, and we're going to stay that way, and quality. Like, we're not going to budge on any of those pillars and values. But we're going up against companies who don't really care much about those things. So it just makes it a little tougher to navigate the industry.
And talk a little bit, you said you kind of caught the wave at the right time, like post-COVID, there was a huge interest in supplements and bioactive components. So you kind of caught this wave right at the right time to be surfing. But talk a little bit more about where you're at right now. Like, how many dollars are you able to reinvest, or are you still in growth mode? Like, you have to reinvest? How does that work?
Yeah. Yep. So we're still very much in growth mode. And I would say the last couple of years is when the colostrum industry is really taken off. Post-COVID, I think people are becoming more educated on their health, on their immune system, on their gut. I think gut health is huge right now. And like diving into the benefits of colostrum, you kind of touch on all those things. You have it's full of antibodies, which are immunoglobulins that help destroy bacteria in your gut, and then you got growth factors, which help if you're dealing with like leaky gut, it helps, seal your gut, I guess. And it increases the natural collagen in your body too. So I would say beauty in the supplement industry is huge right now, and collagen blew up, and colostrum, instead of taking an external collagen to your body, you're actually generating more collagen, natural collagen from within, and helps with your hair, skin, and nails. And like, that's the first thing people talk about right away is like, oh, I noticed my nails got stronger, and my hair started growing faster. It's yeah, and your gut will take at least 3 weeks to kind of turn. That's what they generally say. So if you have digestive issues, like, it's more of a, you got to be on it for at least 3 to 4 weeks before you start seeing the difference there. But yeah, I mean, the bioactive molecules, the peptides, the proteins, vitamins, minerals, like, they're all for building your gut and strengthening and supporting your immune system. So yeah, it's a great product. I feel like it's just, the industry's just been picking up steam the last couple of years.
A potential new marketplace for some dairies that don't have a place for their extra colostrum at this point. Well,
Yep.
At this point, I'm going to thank you both, Rob and Adrian. We're going to go into our Q&A portion now. So if you've had any questions throughout the webinar and you'd like to ask Rob or Adrian those questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, and we'll get to those in a second. But Scott, I'll turn it over to you for a second.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. To set the stage, we'll take a real quick break for a short video, then we'll be right back to answer your questions. Balchem has invested decades perfecting the art of nutrient encapsulation. And now, new AminoShure XL is setting a new standard, delivering 35% more metabolizable lysine than leading competitors. With AminoShure XL, you can provide your cows with a more consistent and higher quality source of metabolizable lysine, leading to improved and more dependable results. A recent meta-analysis found that feeding rumen-protected lysine led to an increase in milk fat percentage and 4.4 more pounds of energy-corrected milk. Feed new AminoShure XL to your cows and have confidence that you're using the most consistent, reliable, and cost-effective source of lysine on the market today. Learn more at balchem.com/XL. All right, as a reminder to the audience, you can still submit your questions via the Q&A tab at the top of your screen. Walt, what's our first question?
Yeah, first question kind of goes back to that multi-site dairy discussion, and the question is, are there synergies? Are you seeing synergies in purchasing between the two dairies? Are you able to realize that kind of economy of scale, or does the distance between states and different locations prohibit some of that synergy?
I would say the distance does prohibit some of that synergy. I mean, you're in different feed markets and things like that, and equipment, you're dealing with different dealers, and when you're buying seed and things like that, you're also dealing with different regions. So there's not a ton of synergy on your day-to-day costs, I would say. One thing that's been really cool is having this feedlot in eastern Colorado, Brightwater Cattle Company. We didn't really touch on that much before, but there is some synergy there where we can combine all of our heifer program from California and Colorado into eastern Colorado. That gives us some cost synergy. We're able to also do a lot of custom raising out there. And one of the big selling points there is that we have all of our own animals on site. And so being able to raise for other producers who are also high input producers who want a 100-pound plus herd, it helps a lot knowing that we have our animals there. So not only is there a synergy from a cost standpoint, also getting clients into the feedlot, they love to know that, hey, these guys are doing well on the dairy side. I want my heifers raised like those. And that helps, bring in clients who want that too. So as far as synergy, Rob, you have anything on that from your perspective?
No, I think that's good.
I wish there was more of that, honestly. I mean, we've talked about, maybe trying to buy all of something in one state and then, delivering it out to Colorado or whatever. But that's. I would say there is maybe like on the semen side, you're dealing with a company that's selling internationally. You're purchasing semen there, when you're bringing the whole package to a company, you say, hey, this is a lot of animals, plus, the feedlot, our clients at the feedlot get to pick what kind of semen they want to use. So, but for our own animals, there is some cost synergies there, some cost savings.
If you had to build a dairy the next 3 years, what state would you look at to build it in?
Man, that's a tough question. I feel like it seems like the opportunities come and go pretty quick in certain states. So you really got to do your homework on where the demand is going to be, who's going to be wanting that milk, and are they willing to pay a premium to get you there? I know South Dakota is a real hot spot, and the big plants out in Kansas and Texas. And, we saw opportunity in Colorado at the time, but it was brief. I mean, they literally did an expansion, and I think they allowed my dairy and one other large dairy into the state at that time, and then they were full. And so it's really opportunistic. I feel like that's a hard one. I would put yourself where their feed is, obviously. I would put yourself, unless the advantage on milk price is substantial, but I would definitely look at the economics of the area you're going into, the consistency of that.
Another question, since obviously beef prices are really high and it's contributing a lot to dairy's bottom lines, and you have a feedlot, tell us where you think the beef industry is going. Gaze into your crystal ball. You've got 1 foot in the beef industry, 1 foot in the dairy industry, with an actual feedlot. What do you see as the crystal ball for the beef price?
Well, I would say, just to be specific on the feedlot, it's more of a dairy replacement feedlot. It's not beef. I mean, we do have a client where we do raise some of theirs for a certain short time frame out there, but we're not in the beef business per se. We're selling our Angus crosses at day old. We did raise some all the way through and finish them out a few years back just because we had room on the feedlot. We expanded the feedlot, and clients were slowly trickling in. And so at that point in time, we did finish out some of our own. I don't know. I honestly, I think this beef thing is going to stay strong here in the short term. I think the pendulum always swings, and I think for anybody to say this time is different is a very dangerous statement. I think the pendulum will swing back. But as far as the timeline goes, I've thought this deal's going to kind of swing back already a couple of times, and it hasn't. So it's just stayed strong. So I do think that we're going to see maybe some demand destruction at prices that we're at. When other proteins are, relatively speaking. So
on your heifer replacement, are you breeding some heifers to try and sell, or are you just trying to strictly stay replacement only for your dairies?
So we're trying to stay replacement only for our dairies. We're not trying to have a bunch of extra heifers that we're carrying just to speculate on that market. So we raise 100% of our own replacements, and we try to really balance that with our Angus cross program, really capitalize on that and use those opportunities that have been there now for the past couple of years. And that's been substantial. So, and then we really cater our program out there to what the clients want. So we do have clients who do sell some animals, and we have clients who need to buy some animals. And it's a very customizable yard as far as how we want to handle each client and their needs and their wants. And so it's a cool yard. It's a really cool thing that our clients, they show a lot of trust in us because of the success on the dairy side. We're really open book with our clients. And so when they see that we can perform, they know, it all starts from the beginning, and it all starts with the heifer. And so Eastern Colorado is a great location. It's high and dry, great for respiratory function, a lot of sunshine. So you get your weather swings that are violent, but really in between that, it's a really pleasant place to raise an animal, health-wise. And the fact that they're with our animals, people trust them. So
awesome. Great. Well, Scott, we're about at the top of the hour. We're going to close. We are going to do something a little different this time with the live session. Rob and Adrian are gracious with their time. They're going to be able to hang around for another 15 or 20 minutes. But we do need to wrap up just because we told people an hour, so we'll do that. But hang around for the after the session questions if you want to get some questions in live. These will not be available to anyone who didn't participate live with us today. So these after session questions will be available just for the next 15 or 20 minutes. But Scott, take us home.
All right. Thank you, Rob, Walt, Adrian, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Recording of today's webinar will be available on the Real Producer Exchange YouTube channel. Just search youtube.com/@Real Producer Exchange. Our next Real Producer Exchange will take place on November 18th. You can register and check back for more details on that session at balchem.com/realscience or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Be sure to check back as we add more details about our featured dairy operations. On behalf of Rob, Adrian, and Walt, and the teams from Balchem and Progressive Dairy, thank you for joining us today.